afternoon, and good evening. Sarah Smith, your Economic Development Coordinator for St. Lucie County. I'm here with a lovely panel of ladies in celebration of Women's History Month. Today is a wonderful day. It's International Women's Day, and I'm here with a great panel of women to talk about that. I'm going to pass it over to Indira Seville Borgella, and she is going to tell you guys about her mission, her vision, her business, and her purpose.
Thank you, Sarah. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Indira Seville Borgella. I'm the owner of Treasure Coast Communications and Marketing, which is the umbrella company of Better Living and Marketplace magazine and T-Coast Studios. We have some other ventures. My mission is to level the playing field. Our services sometimes are out of reach for many organizations, many startup companies, but the way we've positioned ourselves and the way we have our services laid out, it's pretty much attainable for everyone.
Thank you.
Yes.
I am Wendy Conrad. I am a work culture strategist and founder of Your Happy Workplace. And I help small businesses and organizations to create their work cultures on purpose rather than by default, human-centered work cultures. And we do that through team conversations, leadership actions, and disruption, my favorite, so that their organizations and their teams can thrive. I'm also a speaker and teacher, and I work with and speak to organizations all over the country.
Thank you, Wendy. Leslie?
Thank you so much, Sarah, for having us here on this absolutely amazing day for women all over the world. So I'm Leslie George, and I am the founder of Mosaic Inc. And Mosaic Inc., our purpose is to help women show up authentically. And so women and young girls, to help empower them through whatever spaces that they're showing up in, whether they're showing up virtually or physically, but really giving them the tools and support so that they can now show up as themselves. Because a lot of times we hear that with women, they really don't really know how they're positioned in the marketplace or in any space that they're in. And so Mosaic Inc. is a platform to help women do that. And how do we do that? We do that through coaching, consulting. I've also done that through books where women from all over the world have been co-authors in our books. So that's who I am, and I'm so glad to be here on this amazing day on International Women's Day.
Thank you. Thank you. I've had the opportunity to co-write with you in one of your books. So yes, thank you. All of you all have decided to start your own business for one reason or another. Wendy, tell me a little bit about your journey towards starting your business, whether you did it from a passion or whether you saw a need in the industry that you decided to start your business in.
I think it's a mixture of all of those things. So in the couple of decades before I founded Your Happy Workplace, I worked for about 12 different small businesses. And in that experience, I kind of saw the same issue running through as a common thread, and that was work culture neglect. So with that experience and experiencing a employment with an extremely toxic workplace, and realizing that businesses would need help creating something maybe they've never seen before or even heard of before, and that's healthy work cultures, that's kind of where Your Happy Workplace was born from.
Nice. Indira, what about you?
Well, I actually I went to school for media and mass communications, when I first moved to Florida, I was doing something that I really didn't, want to do. I was in the medical field, and one day I said, no more. And we launched, T-Coast Studios, and that's how I got started.
All right.
Yeah.
Leslie, I know you have a.
Look,
I'm just gonna sit, ladies, just sit back.
So for me, when I talk about female empowerment, it also comes from a diversity inclusive lens. So the reason why I decided to launch Mosaic is because as a black woman, I was told to my face that I will never make it in America as a black woman. I know I'm not the only one that has heard that. And so whether you are a woman in tech, whether you are a black woman in whatever field, you mentioned you were in the medical field. So it doesn't matter what field you're in as a woman, and then we're going to put women of color and different ethnicities. What I found is that that was a lack in the marketplace and even in people's personal lives. So for me, that my platform was created so that women have a voice, and to give women a voice, and also to let women know that we are here to support you. One of the platforms that Mosaic is on the RISE platform. So it's a blueprint, and basically RISE stands for we recognize you, we want to inspire you. The S is to support you, and the E is to educate.
Wow, that's good.
So that is the platform that's the reason why Mosaic was started, because whether we're talking about a young girl in Africa, or we're talking about a 60-year-old woman here in St. Lucie County, or we're talking about a 45-year-old young girl in Palm Beach County, it doesn't matter. We all have the same story. And one of the phrases that I created is that we are all uniquely the same, meaning we're all women. But as women, we all go through the same thing. So that's why I'm so excited for us to have this conversation during Women's History Month and on International Women's Day, because this is really solidifying what Mosaic is all about. So thank you.
Okay, so great stories, great journeys, but now we want to talk about what happens in the midst of your journey. So we start a journey, whatever that journey is. You guys have started a business, and I know that can be hard sometimes. Sometimes you want to give up. Sometimes you want to quit. Sometimes you ask yourself, why am I here? Why am I doing this? And there is something, though, that motivates you, that gives you the drive to continue the work that you do. Yeah. And so if you, Indira, share with me a story about, a struggle that you've had, and what kept you going?
Progress kept me going. Actually seeing progress. Even if it's one step at a time, you're making progress. So that motivates me, that keeps me going. So although sometimes you may feel like, okay, you took a step back, but tomorrow you will take another step forward and another step forward. So as long as you're seeing progress, that should be enough motivation to keep you going. Yeah.
Wendy?
I think we would all agree, as women business owners especially, that we've thought about quitting at some time. It seems like the less complicated, maybe safer choice. But this is something that I tell my clients to do with their teams, is to remind myself of my why, remind myself of my purpose. I feel deeply connected to this work. And another thing that after I do that is to surround myself with other women business owners, cheerleaders who kind of can remind you, remind us of how amazing we are when that doubt starts to creep in. So those are the two things that keep me going.
And Leslie, I kind of want to put a little spin on the question. I need you to tell me a hardship that you went through, something specific, something that's either extremely funny or extremely sad. Tell me a story about that, and then tell me how you overcame.
Well, that takes me to the very beginning of Mosaic, where I always appreciate your support, as you were you partaked in one of my first events. So we're going to go back to International Day of the Girl, October of 2018. Where Mosaic I had the first ever live event. And when you are putting together an event, there's so many different things that's going through your head, especially at that time. It was the first event. And so I didn't know who was going to show up. I didn't know if I was going to get support. And to add on top of that, this is going back to 2018, my keynote speaker was a transgender female. So my support system at the time, the people that I had around me, the friends that I had around me, did not understand that. And so I had people that called me and said, I want to support you, but I really can't, because I really can't wrap my head around that. And so just imagine your first live event for something that has been dropped in your spirit for probably about 20 years.
Wow.
And now you're going to birth this thing, and you're not getting support. But guess what? I just had to keep on moving.
Yes.
Yeah.
That event was an incredible event.
Yes, it was.
I had probably
Yeah.
20 vendors. There were probably 45 people in the audience. And that was literally the birth, and where I could see lives transform. Where I saw people with so many questions where they had never been in a room with a transgender female. And that female is Gina Duncan, which is an incredible friend of mine. And she does incredible work across the country. But that story, that really hurt.
Yeah.
Because I knew going into that event, I had to put on a smile. I had to go through the event like nothing happened. But the end, and back to what Wendy said, the why. So we can't
Yes.
always worry about the how, because the event and people saying that they couldn't come, all that was part of the how. But the why is way bigger than me. The platform of Mosaic to help empower women and young girls across the world, that's bigger than me. That's a mission that I believe that even in my lifetime, that others can pick up that mantle and continue. So Sarah, thank you for having me dig deep, because when I think about that story, the emotions that come up from that story, of really trying to bring forth something and to really create a platform of inclusivity. I'm gonna go back and say that was 2018. The world has moved since then,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
But my vision was way bigger than where the world is now. Because back in 2018, a lot of people were not embracing inclusivity. For me, that's always my lens. So thank you so much for having me talk about that.
Yeah. So we're women, women in business, and that's our front facing. That's what we're telling our audience today, that we're women in business, but we are also women. And with being women, there's a lot of double duty happening. We have to be parents, we have to be wives, and we have to work and bring in income, and we do a lot. And so if I'm a woman who has a vision inside of me and want to birth that vision, I want to start my own business, what advice could you give me, Indira?
There are so many resources out there for women. Here to begin with, myself. And I'm also on the advisory board of We Venture, which is an
Yes.
organization that their sole purpose is to assist women from startup to level 2 to second tier companies. So there you have to just ask for help.
Yes.
Help is
yes.
here. There are countless resources to plug into. So find your tribe, find your people, find your group, find your support system. We're here.
Yeah,
We're out here.
yeah. Wendy?
Before I get to the advice for women, I would say flip that question a little bit and say the answer.
Don't be taking my question. No,
I'm gonna get to it. I'm gonna fulfill my homework assignment. But my advice would be, first of all, for business owners to pay women equally, specifically women of color and Black women, for doing the same jobs as men. For people to support women-owned businesses, for employers to put women in places of leadership, for employers to give flexibility to working mothers, for communities, for workplaces, for families, to not expect us as women to do it all and be supportive of us. In the 1930s, when women in the workforce, the numbers started to increase, and into the 70s, we were still expected to run the household, raise the children, and have a career. No one can do it all. So my advice for women would be to not place that unrealistic expectation on ourselves, to support each other, to find your cheerleaders,
Yes.
and be a support system for each other.
Thank you. I love it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Leslie?
So for me, I'm just going to round out this question. Indira gave us some amazing resources. Wendy added to that is just really know that you matter, right? know that whatever has been put in you, that you matter. And the titles that we have, mom, sister, aunt, employee, all in church, all those, right? All of those, they don't matter. You come first. The main thing I'm always going to say is also community. Community is so important.
Yes.
Why? Because you need that support. You need to know that there's a group of people that you can go and lay whatever burdens without any type of judgment. And that's the other thing about creating an inclusive platform for women, is so that you know that Mosaic Inc. is here for you, no judgment, right? So the main thing is you matter. And it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. One thing my pastor always says is that he knows he's tea. He may not be your cup of tea, but he's tea.
He's tea.
So know that you're tea.
tea.
You may not be somebody else's tea, but you're tea. And I think that's really where we stand center first, is to show up, and every day is not going to be the same, but just to show up knowing that you matter. So.
So Wendy, you went there. You took it to the controversial level, and I definitely wanted to get into that. And if there is such a person out there that feel like women should not be paid equitably, if women do less, or if a woman's place is in the home, would you talk directly to the audience? And what would you tell the audience?
So
No, really speak directly to the audience.
I think I'm on this camera,
Okay.
but I would say to people like that who think that someone else individually or any other group is less than, or that they're better than, to really go inward and examine your relationship to power and your relationship to control. Because I think whenever somebody thinks they're better than somebody else, there is a power dynamic going on. So you need to explore what your relationship and your attachment is to power and control.
Does that mean that could it be possible that they don't think that they're better? They just, it's kind of an inborn, inbred situation for them. Is that a possibility, or no? It does signify power.
I think, and I talk a lot about this in my work. We need to start asking questions and not just, this is the way we've always done it.
Absolutely.
This is the way we've always done it. Why do it any differently? Women are expected to raise children, have careers, and manage the household. Why should we do it any differently? It's working for me, whoever that me might be. So again, examining the power and control and who the situation is working for, but also who it's not working for.
Oh yes, absolutely. That's really good. I like that.
Yeah.
Leslie, can you add anything to Wendy's conversation?
So for me, if we're talking about in the workplace and kind of how women show up in the workplace, part of the things that I talk about is a lot of times, and I'm going to talk about Black women specifically. Black women, we show up in the workplace really having a lot of different hats in the workplace, because as we are showing up and we are working, some of the conversations that we have that's going on in our heads is we are trying to make our white coworkers comfortable in the workplace. And so when we're doing the work that we are employed to do, there's so much other chatter and so many other things that we have going on that really makes our job a little bit more difficult because of the way that we've always done it, because of the way the workplace may be set up unequitable for us as Black women when we show up. So there's microaggressions that happen. There's a lot of code switching that Black women that we do at work. And a lot of times we just do it just like that and don't even realize what we're doing, right? But I think that now that the veil has been lifted with some of the things that happen in corporate, you have allies, someone like Wendy, you have allies that are there now that can help us. And when I say help us, one thing I've always said, what allies do is they can go into a room where we will never go into. And the fact that they can go forward and they can now go into a room and they can say, well, hey, what about Sarah? Well, who's Sarah? Well, yeah, you know who Sarah is. That's what allies do, where allies will bring us into rooms where we before will never have access to, or maybe never have access to. So, you know, in the workplace as Black women, just want to end with that, is that for us, there's so many things that we go through. And I'm glad that we're having these conversations. And Wendy and I have done several lives together where we talk about that, because part of my platform is for us to be comfortable with these uncomfortable conversations. Why? Because we're talking about humanity. That's what we're talking about. It's human stories. So why are we, because we've always done it that way, why are we not having those conversations? We know about water cooler conversations where we talk about so many different things. Why can't we talk about how are Black women, women of color, how are they showing up in the workplace? So I think that the fact that now some corporations are having those type of conversations and are now saying, what is it that we've been doing before that we were not doing right, that we can now do now so that we can get it right? One of the things there's a CEO of Reddit, which is, I believe is Serena's husband. He founded Reddit and he was a CEO of Reddit. And he decided to step down. Why? Because he said he does not want his daughter to grow up and say, but Daddy, when all this stuff was going on with women and how Black people show up in the workplace, what is it that you did? So he stepped down to make a person of color the CEO of his company. That's what I'm talking about when we're doing that type of intentional work, because it's human stories. So.
Powerful.
Indira, how has a women or a group of women championed you or been your ally?
Well, there's several groups of women that really pushed me, plugging into organizations like, well, my sorority, for instance, Zeta Phi Beta, Sorority Incorporated, Zeta Eta Zeta chapter. I can't tell you the support that I've received from them on a daily basis, just checking in, has been just invaluable. Plugging into organizations like We Venture, where they just, it's resource after resource, and it's a wide variety of resources, from legal to personal to just how to balance your life. Just plugging into those resources has been invaluable. And then on my morning commute, I listen to Leslie in the morning on Clubhouse, you know, and that gets you like fired up in the morning, right? So it's I think a combination of throughout the day, however you receive information, whether it be email, text, phone, just personal communication with people. Yeah, just plugging in and learning to stay plugged in.
Yeah, I know sometimes I text a few women in the morning, or I get a text and it's right. It seems to be always at the right time.
Yes.
And so that I receive that.
It's like you're on the same wavelength, the same vibe, and they plug right into you.
Wendy, what resource would you give women, just a specific resource that you love and is very helpful to you? Could you give that out to the audience today?
A specific resource, I think just looking around you and picking out who your cheerleaders are, and seeking to form relationships with other women business owners specifically, if that's what you're looking to do, because it can be kind of isolating sometimes, especially if we're working from home or if we don't have a support system within our business. So to seek those women out, either through your local chamber or through other organizations, to kind of say, hey, you know, let's meet for coffee later, or let's do a virtual Zoom, or so you can have people to send and receive those texts from in the morning, or to send little notes to in the mail that you get at just the right time. So we kind of have to sometimes form our own resources for each other.
So that's really good. That is so true. We do need to form resources for each other. And I heard Indira give We Venture a shout out, her sorority. Give somebody a shout out. Who's supporting you through this journey?
Well, I feel like this is like my Grammy acceptance speech. I'd like to thank the following. Well, for me personally, I mean, they're not resources that everybody could use. I mean, I guess you could call my parents if you want.
Right?
They'd
Family,
be happy
your
to cheer you on. But I think I've been lucky and privileged enough to have unconditional love from my parents throughout my childhood. I know that's not everyone's experience. So I have their continued support in whatever I do. And also my partner in life, my husband, who has definitely supported your happy workplace, which has needed it in its building stages. So those are some support systems that I have for myself.
Great. Leslie, shout it out.
Shout out. Shout out. So for me, oh my goodness, I have so many communities, right? So I'm gonna start with, I'll start with my husband. And so as you can see, I have pink hair now. Yeah. And next month you may see me have a different color hair, right? So for the last year, I've been, just having fun, just being creative and having different color hair, right? Mm-hmm. And so the funny thing with that is that most women will ask me, well, what does your husband think? And like that just like blows my mind, right? Like, you're a woman. What are you asking me? What does my husband think? What does my husband have to do with my hair? So, in saying that, I'm gonna shout out my husband, and then I'm gonna go to my sister, who just gives amazing unconditional support, and then sometimes she pulls in Sarah. So my family is really an amazing grounding foundation, and the reason why I say that is because they're the ones that really know you the most, right? So it really starts there. Mm-hmm. And so whether they've gotten the same download that you may have gotten for your mission and your vision, because not all the time they do, but if they're giving you that type of support that you need, because when you get that type of support, you can now push that out into the world. So I'll start there. And then, as Indira mentioned, I run a room on Clubhouse, which is an amazing app. Shout out to Clubhouse. But I do a room on there every morning, and so I have an incredible partner. Her name is Shirley Ann Felder, where we run that room every morning, and we've been doing it well over 200 and something episodes. Shout out to her, and also some other amazing women in that community. My mom, obviously amazing women up here. So I have so many different communities. And here's the thing that I would say as well, when we're building community. So we need to be in communities of where you are receiving and communities where you can give. Yes. And so let me just lay that out. What does that look like? So you may be in a group where, well, you're feeding down. But where are you getting your feed from? So you need to be in other communities where you're not the smartest person in the room. Yes. And so that brings me real quick to ego, because sometimes we may feel that we just need to be in a community where we may be the smartest in the room. I tell anybody every day, all day, I love learning. I have one of my foundational words is curiosity. So for that, I love being in different communities where I can learn from so many different women. And what does that create? That creates diversity and inclusivity. So,
that's good.
Thank you
love
so
it.
much.
That just leads me, go ahead.
Before we move on, I have to say one other thing. I do, so my focus was, on the previous answer, was on the women organizations, but I would say my husband has been the #1 propeller of just, you can do it on a daily basis. Yes. Before I even walked in here, text and then called me, to just remind me of who I am.
Exactly.
Why I do what I do, or why we do what we do. So I just had to say that, and my sisters.
Yes. And it's funny you say that, because as I talked about my husband, I remember one day coming home from work, and just out of the blue, I came home and he says, you need to start speaking. I said, what?
Yes, yeah.
What? Yeah, no, you need to start speaking. You need to start inspiring women. What? And so it was something that I had in me for 20 years, but never really thought about, okay, how am I going to put this thing together? So, yes. So yeah. So
Good stuff.
yeah,
I want to go back to where you talked about being in a circle of learning.
yes.
I'm just going to talk about myself. I always want to be at someone's feet, learning. I think that's where I show up best in the learning scene, because sparks just go and they fly. And, I love this conversation and just gleaning all of this. I'm taking all of this in, and, I'm happy that we're sharing it with our community. So I'm just going to bring it down one more notch. It's going to be my final question, ladies. And we have our young ladies coming up, and they need so much support, just as we did. And a lot of times we didn't always get the support that we needed. And so if there is anything that you're doing with our youth, young ladies in the community, and even if it's just an inspirational word for them right now, I'll let you go, Wendy, on that.
I just recently was asked to speak at an event that's going to be happening later this month called Empower Her Educational Summit, and that's being organized by the local PACE Center for Girls. So PACE Center for Girls is an organization that aims to improve young women and girls' future through education, advocacy, training, and they have locations all throughout the Southeast. So PACE Center for Girls is here on the Treasure Coast, so I'm looking forward to continuing to support their mission. And if you want to learn more, pacecenter.org, you can find out about a PACE Center for Girls near you and how you can support that organization.
Okay. Let me just, if you all will, I'm going to start with you, Indira. Just tell people how they can get in touch with you, in touch with your services.
Sure. Indira at tcoaststudios.com, or you can visit tccm.agency. That's the easiest way.
Thank you. Wendy.
You can go to yourhappyworkplace.com, and I like to say I'm LinkedIn in the front and Instagram in the back. I have the most fun on Instagram, so that's where you can go to find past conversations between Leslie and I about race in the workplace and other live conversations that I've had with experts. So at Your Happy Workplace on Instagram, and I'm also on LinkedIn.
Okay. And Leslie.
So for me, website is themosaicinc.com, and email is leslie@lesliegeorge.com, and I am also on LinkedIn, Leslie George, and I'm on Instagram as Experience Leslie, and that's really on purpose because I believe that it's an experience when you deal with me.
It is.
But
We can all attest to that, Leslie.
so that's what I am on Instagram. But if I can go back to that last question that you had asked Wendy about young girls. And you started by saying that you like to be in circles of learning.
Yes.
And so I said that one of my foundational words is curiosity. That comes from my grandmother. As a young girl, 7, 6, 8, I couldn't wait till the end of the night where we can get together and I could just listen to her, right? And I still remember that. And Mosaic, one of the taglines under Mosaic is Sisters Inspiring Others. The S, the I, and the O, you put those together, and that's my grandmother's nickname. So all of that is intentional, right? And so what I would say to young girls is that we talk about community here. We talk about circles of learning. Get with someone that you could sit at their feet. And that person does not have to have some type of formal education.
That's right.
The person has life
Yes.
education and so much wisdom.
Yes.
And there's things that still now that as a little girl that, that's what she meant. Because she would say these things and talk in parables. And obviously as a little girl, you didn't understand, but I just knew that it was something that had to stay within me. And so as I matured, all of those things started to birth out. And then what happens? You have children, you pass that on to your children, right? So it's all about that type of legacy building. So what I would say to any young girl out there, seek out someone in your community that has that type of wisdom, where you can learn from their life. And I think that we've gotten to an age where we think that when they're older, they don't have anything to give. And maybe they may act like they don't have anything to give. And that's why a platform like Mosaic has been created, so that women, no matter what age, from 0 to 80, because I also believe that as women, we are this amazing flower. And when we get to like 80, 90 years old, we just open up, and this amazing fragrance that comes out, that anybody just wants to come, like honeybees, anybody just wants to come and just be part of that, right? So that is the platform that I stand on. And it all started from my grandmother. It all started from me being 6 and 7 and just listening to her. So those are some things that I just want to leave with any woman that's listening, because you could impart so much into some young girls that are coming up. So I just wanted to, since you mentioned that, I didn't want that to leave.
Okay, no problem.
So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, ladies. Sarah Smith, Community and Business Engagement Coordinator, has such a long title. You can reach me at smiths@stlucyco.org. Thank you, Indira, Wendy, Leslie. It has been an absolute pleasure to be on this panel with you ladies. Thank you so much.
Thank you.